Hey guys. I had a special request from a subscriber to do a video on spinning Lopi yarn, which is something I've actually never done. So I washed up some Icelandic fleece because, of course, I had some in my stash, go figure. And I'm going to attempt to make some Lopi yarn. Now, traditionally, the thel and the tog were separated. The thel is the long, the tog is the short. I'm pretty sure. So traditionally they were separated. The thel was used for spinning twine and stuff. And the tog, which can be as fine as cashmere, see how soft and fuzzy it is, was used for making undergarments and baby clothes and all this stuff that needs to be soft. But nowadays, they card both together and spin that into a Lopi style yarn, which is a low twist single of a thicker, yeah, that's a thicker fiber, thicker yarn. There we go. English is hard. So I'm going to attempt to make a Lopi yarn combining the two coats, but I will probably also take some of it and separate it and spin those separately just because, it's me and I just can't resist trying all the things. So I'm going to grab my carder and we will card some of this for spinning as a Lopi yarn. Back in a minute. So I'm just using my little drum carder since I'm not doing a huge amount. Just going to clamp it to the table so it's not running away on me. There we go. I got my burnishing brush and my Doffer and our fiber. Now, in researching, it did say, take your locks. I'm trying not to separate the two coats, so I'm carefully pulling them open. It does say to open up that butt end before carding it. The colors on this fleece are gorgeous. We had some really reddy browns all the way up to blondes. It's crazy pretty. All right, I'm gonna go, I think, thel first. Because it is slick, I'm just gonna keep pushing it back onto my drum so it'll catch. And I am only gonna do a little bit, like just in the middle of the drum. So here's another clump of locks. Just going to straighten those out a little bit. Oh, there's a piece of veggie matter. We'll pluck that out while we're here. This is a very clean fleece, though. It's quite lovely. Now, because the thel can be super long, this is why they recommend carding. You can use hand cards if you cut the thel so that it's the same length as the tog, but I have a drum carder, so I'm going to use it. And we are going to do a couple of passes to make sure that it's well blended. Just kind of opening up that cut end. And I'm going to feed it on sideways for fun. Because you can see my thel is not that long for an Icelandic sheep. It's only about yay long. Normally they're quite long. They're usually shorn twice a year to keep that length down. And yes, you can feed fiber onto your drum carder sideways. Its job is to straighten it out. So don't be shy about feeding it on sideways, because the next passes will line that up straighter, and you might get a better blend feeding it on sideways. There's some really nice blonde locks, so we're going to pop those in. I'm just going to check and see how thick that is. It's not too bad yet. We can fit somewhere on there. Here's some more blondish locks. There's a little bit of veggie matter. We're going to pluck that out because we don't want to card it into our fleece. I'm going to open this up a bit, and then we'll feed this one on thel end first, just to mix it up. And I am going very slow because the thel tends to want to stick to the liquor in drum. So by going slower, I can see and control that. And just a little bit more, and then we'll do a second pass, possibly a third. We'll see how it lines up. Oop, there's another little bit of veggie matter. Now, the reason that you combine the two coats is the thel gives you the wind water resistance, and the tog gives you the soft, fluffy warmth. So you get the best of both worlds in one wool. All right. Just gonna give that a quick burnish. And now we'll pop that off the drum. I'm just sticking to the middle, and I'm just doing a little bit just to sample because I've never done this before. So I'm just gonna start with a small bit. Just trying to get most of that off the drum. Now, normally I'd go around the end of my drum carder to take that off, but just because of the way I have it positioned for filming, I can't really do that. So here's our first pass. That's actually not too bad. So I think we can probably make do with 2 passes. So I'm going to split that lengthwise, turn it on its side, and I'm going to feed it on. Now, once it starts taking the fiber, I'm just going to draft it a little bit. And then I come to another big chunk here. I'm just going to draft that a little bit. There's another big chunk. Draft. I suspect these thicker places are where the tog has bunched up, so I want to distribute it more evenly, which is why when I come to these thicker bits, I'm drafting it out. So it'll spread around the drum and be more evenly distributed. You can see here I have a bit on the liquor end, so I'm just going to flip that over and burnish it on. Whoops. Had some purple there for some reason. I'll get that out of there. Add that back in. Okay. Now you don't want to put pressure on what's in the tray at the same time as you're drum carding, because that'll cause it to wrap around your liquor in. So stop, draft, then wind. Now you can see we got a bit wrapped here, so I'm just going to take my doffer, stab myself on the pins because I'm just that coordinated. I'm going to get the ends started up. Take my burnishing brush and go right near the liquor end so that it grabs those fibers and pulls them in. Then we're going to take our next bit. There's a little more veggie matter. And we're going to feed this on. I'm just going to draft this out a bit because it does have some really thick and thin parts. So I'm just going to draft it out a bit before I feed it on. It is blending. I can already see that the two coats are starting to blend just from that one pass. All right, then we will feed it on. Now, because I drafted it before I fed it on, I'm not worrying about drafting it on the tray. I'm just kind of guiding it to go back and forth across this little section of drum that I'm using. Now, just going to get this bit off of the liquor in. You don't have to do that. That's just me being me. I like to have my liquor in nice and clean. So I'll grab my burnishing brush. Just give that a quick run through. And now we're going to doff it off and have a look. Now you can also use your burnishing brush to clean it off the drum. There we go. So that's our second pass through, and I'm thinking that looks pretty darn good. So I'm going to grab the spinning wheel and we will do an attempt at spinning a Lopi yarn. Be right back. All right, we're going to attempt to spin some Lopi yarn, but first, coffee. Oh, so good. All right, because we need to make a low twist singles, I'm going to use my plying head because it has the very large rolls. You can see how much larger it is than the regulars. So I'm going to pop off my regular head. There we go. That's some chain plied hand-dyed BFL I done. Yeah, I speak good English. Pop on my plying head. And let's get Get the drive band on. Now, if I was going to spin a lot, I'd switch to my drive band head, or drive band for my plying head, so I don't stretch out this one, but I'm only doing a little bit, so I'm not worrying about it. Now I want a high uptake, so I'm not getting a lot of ply into them. Okay, there we go. So here we have our carded bat of the mixed thel and tog, but we're going to need to draft this out because we won't want to be drafting much. We're trying to get it on the wheel fast so we don't add much twist. So I'm just going to gently draft it out. I don't know what Bobo is doing down there. He's just being a weirdo, scratching at the floor for no reason. What are you doing, Bobo? Now, because we don't want to separate the two coats, we want to draft slowly and carefully. Keep our hands a fair bit apart. And you don't want to try to draft it thin the first go. You want to just keep working back and forth until you get down to a thinner roving. Okay, let's attempt to spin a Lopi. Just going to flip that through my little loop. Get it all the way up to my orifice. Now we want low twist, so basically it's called shove it up the orifice. You want to get twist in and get it on the bobbin as fast as possible. So draft on, draft on, draft on, draft on. Now because the thel is so long, it doesn't take much twist at all. Let's see how we're doing here. There we go. I may even have a little too much twist in there, but that is a Lopi yarn. Just a low twist singles. So let's get that on there. And let's try for even lower twist. So I'm going to actually park and draft. Park and draft. Let's see if I got that any lower twist. Oops. I'm going to pull it this way. There we go. So you can see how low twist that is. It looks like it should just fly apart. So let's test it. So you can see how little twist you need in that to make a stable yarn. Like literally. You think it should just fly apart and it doesn't. That's because of the length of the thel. So if it's your lock on your thel is this long, that's your staple length. So you just need a little twist here and a little twist here to stabilize it. And then the tog is just caught in that twist. So let's make this as low twist as we can. We'll just draft that out a little bit. Now I could have drafted my roving out a little thinner just to make the drafting at the wheel a lot less. But you know, this is me. I do things my own way. Now I'm not getting a very even yarn here because I'm not paying enough attention. All right, there we go. This is actually, it feels fairly soft in the hands. I expected it to be a lot coarser because of the thel, but the tog does seem to soften the hand quite a bit. Well, I'm still getting a fairly high twist on there, but I think it'll be okay. Let's see. Now, the tog felts very, very easily. So you could do a hot, cold finish on this. So put it in water as hot as it could be, and then dunk it into ice water to shock those fibers into felting to make a more stable yarn. But I really don't think you need to do that. I think after spinning, you can just go right into knitting or crocheting with it. Oh, there's a little bit of veggie matter. So we'll just pluck that out. Now this is making like a poofy, airy yarn, which would trap a ton of heat. All right, I'm going to attempt to make this a smoother yarn. So I'm going to draft this out even finer so that I'm just adding the twist. Because, you know, I have to try everything. All right, let's draft it out some more. Now the trick here is, as it's getting thinner, I can see that the tog is separating from the thel. So I think you can only draft it so fine before those fibers are going to separate. But I will take the chance just on this little bit. Oh, there's Latte going for a stroll by. What's up, Tay-Tay? Uh-oh, he just spied Bobble. There could be a war. All right, I think that's as fine as I can draft that. So now we're going to not even draft. We're just going to put the twist in and smooth the fingers over to try to smush down that fiber a bit. So I'm not actually drafting at all right now. I'm just guiding the fiber in. All right, I'm going to draft a bit just to smooth out those bumps. Slow down on my treadling. I'm just trying for a more smooth worsted style spin here without over twisting and making it rope. And that's the reason you want the low twist on the Lopi yarn, is if you put too much twist into it, it will end up with the texture of rope. So let's see how this is. There we go. Oh, that's actually really pretty. All right, let's do a snap test. Whoops, got some of my... So you can see for a low twist single how strong that is. And that's the part of the Icelandic fleece that makes it ideal for this type of spin. You get the softness of the tog, the warmth of the tog, the strength and length of the thel combined to make like the perfect warm, strong yarn in a single. Which I know in theory, I've just never actually done it. This is my first time. All right, so that is our Lopi yarn. Just a nice low twist singles. So let's get this off the wheel. Even this has quite a bit of twist in it. I probably put a little too much. But there is a Lopi yarn. It's actually surprisingly soft and fluffy. There is an itch from the thel, but it's not as harsh as I thought it would be. And it does look quite lovely. So I will just do a regular wet finish on this, and we will knit up a sample with it when it's dry. Now, let's play a little bit since I have some Icelandic fleece clean anyways. Let's play with it a little bit. I'm going to grab my hand cards, my combs, and some fleece, and we're going to try separating the two coats and spinning them on their own. All right, I have tools and fleece. So let's try separating our coats. I'm going to go with my hand cards first, as usual, not cleaned out because, you know, it's me. I get excited to get on the next project and I just set them aside. This is some of the fluffies from one of my Gotland BFL lamb fleeces. If you haven't seen those videos, go back and have a look. So we'll just pick that out. We're going to take one hand card and we're going to pick out a lock. Now this for an Icelandic fleece is not that long. It's probably been shorn twice a year, which is what's recommended for Icelandic. So to try to get this short tog coat out, we're going to, hopefully I'm saying those the right way. I'm just going to wrap the long hairs around my finger and just drag it across the carder. And I just want to open this up, so I'm just going to drag the other end through. And you can see that we're left with the long hairs. So the thel. We'll put that in one pile. And then we have our tog. Now, there's going to be still some thel in there. So what I'm going to do is just put that to the front edge of the carder. Comb that out all nice. Then pull it out and grab those longer hairs and pull them out. So this is still going to be a mix of the two. So we're going to, again, just put them to the front edge of the card and have a look. So that looks pretty good. So there we have our tog, and it's pretty soft. So this would be spun for undergarments, things like that, because it is the softer fiber. Now the second way to do it is to grab a hand combs. And we're going to grab a lock. Take that little bit off. Now I'm going to just fluff out this lock first to kind of loosen everything up. Then I'm going to take the cut end and just lash that very end on there. Grab the end of the thel and pull. And there we have it. Separated. Now, you can stop there, or you can further comb it and get it into roving form, because you can see how it's a little bit clumped up. Oh, that was my stomach making complaining noises. There we go. So now we have a nice fluffy tog, and we can draft that off into a roving for spinning. I think using the combs is probably the quicker and easier way to do it, but if you don't have combs, you can do it with cards, and you can also do it by hand. So just grab your lock, fluff it out a bit, just pinch that very end, and just pull it apart. There you go. Now you can go back the other way, twist, pull, and you might get any of the fibers you missed. So if you have no tools at all, you can still mostly separate those two coats just by hand. And then you can just stack it. So pull, stack, pull, stack. And this will open up the fibers, loosen them up, align them so you can spin them. And you can also see if there are any rogue thel hairs in there, and you can pluck them out. I should have a little spritzer bottle here because I'm right beside the wood stove and the static is ridiculous. There's another thel hair and another one. Try to pinch at the same spot on all the fibers so you're getting all your lengths lined up. And every time you pull, you're pulling out the ones that aren't in that pinch. Now you can also give that a twist and pull so any shorter fibers come out. Give it a twist and pull. So there we go. Any long fibers can come out until you have nice fluffy undercoat to spin. So I'm going to change the head on my wheel because I'm going to be spinning a fairly fine, well, much finer yarn. I'm going to separate up some thel and some tog, and we'll spin them both separately so you can see what they look like spun, each coat by itself. Back in a minute. All right, so I have a little batch of tog here. It's not exactly the cleanest from thel, but whatever. We're just experimenting here, so I'm gonna see. Ooh, that's some high uptake. Let's turn that down. I want to see how fine I can spin this and how it feels. Oof, I better get some more twist in that. Because cashmere is often spun very fine. So let's do the same with the tog. Oh my, that does like to spin fine. Can you even see that? It's spinning that fine. I should have my high-speed flyer on here. Oh, and it's doing this so easily. Wow. Okay, I found a new favorite for thread spinning. Now I'm just doing a little bit of a woolen draft here. All right, let's have a look at how this looks in a plyback sample. Okay, so it does need a little more twist. Can you see how fine that is? That's crazy. Wow. Does that ever spin thin? Okay, let's test for strength. Wow, that's actually got really good strength on it. All right, I'm just gonna knot that so I can keep spinning on this one. All right. I'm going to do a thread draw on this. Oh my goodness. It loves a woolen spin. It just grabs on and drafts beautifully. And super fine. Like, can you see how fine that is on a woolen draft? Wow. Okay, I'm having fun now. This be crazy. I did not know you could do this with Icelandic fleece. Now I should definitely be doing this with my high-speed flyer because getting enough twist into this is proving to be very tricky. So I'm going to go a little thicker now. Not because I don't enjoy the thread spin, I really do. And with the high-speed flyer, it would be amazing. But since we're just doing sampling, I'm not going to change it out. I just know that I can do it if I choose to. All right, there's some tog spun up. Now let's grab the thel, which is right here. Just gonna open that up a little bit and spin right off the ends. I think I'm going to spin off the butt end because it will have a little bit of tog left in it for grip. Because the thel is hair, not wool, so it's not going to have the same grippiness as the tog will. So I'm going to put a fair bit of twist in it just to hold it together and to really emphasize the difference between the tog and the thel. Oh, here comes Latte. Hey, Tay. I have to give him a pat on the way by. All right, so those are just some very small samples. I'm just going to grab another bobbin so we can chain ply it. 1 second. All right, quick change. So we spun that S. No, we spun that Z. So we're going to ply S. If you forget, you can always do a little ply back sample and see which way the twist goes. So I'm just going to tie this on. Increase our uptake a little bit. All right. And we're just going to chain ply this just for some quick sampling. All right, we're on to the tog now. And we're getting down to the really fine stuff. Now, I'm just going to lift this up into my lap because I spun it so fine. I don't want the pull on it because it might snap. Oops, we got wrapped around our little hook. And a little too much uptake for this because it's so fine. I'm not ideally set up to ply singles this fine, so if I were, I would go with my arched lazy Kate so there wouldn't be as much pressure on the bobbin, and I would have my high-speed flyer, absolutely. But because I'm just sampling, I'm working with what I've got. Just tie it on the end so the twist can't escape. Apply it back on itself. All right, let's take this off the wheel and see what we have. This is our tog. Look how fine that spun. That's a 3-ply because it's chain plied. So that's literally a 3-ply. Isn't that crazy? Then I spun it a little thicker. So that's this here. And it is so soft. Crazy soft. And then this is our thel. Now, it has gorgeous definition and a bit of shine to it, but it is definitely a little rougher. It's still not that bad. It's still pretty soft. So I'll wash up those samples and we'll see how they look when they're washed. Gonna go do some laundering of wools and I will be back when they are dry. See you in a bit. All right, so here are our washed samples. Here is our Lopi yarn. Now, I didn't do a great job spinning it. It is very thick and thin. But for being this low twist, it's strong. Oh, there, I finally managed to drift it apart, but you saw how many times I had to snap that. So it is actually a fun yarn to spin. But when I separated the coats, here is, whoops, one just fell on the floor. Here is just the thel spun into a yarn. It makes a very crisp definition. It's quite lovely. Let me move this over a little bit so you see this. It is very coarse. Well, not very. It is coarse, so it would not be next to the skin. But it is a very strong yarn. So yes, this would be excellent for making twine and rope. And it would be so excellent for embroidery. Then we have our tog. Now look how fine this spun up. That's a 3-ply. I chain plied that. It spins super fine very easily. And then this I just spun a little thicker, and it is very, very soft. So yes, I could see that this would make for excellent next to the skin wear. And I just can't believe how easy it spun that fine. It's crazy. So these were very interesting experiments. So I went one farther and I knit up a sample with the Lopi roving. You can see it's a very dense fabric. It's kind of fluffy. And you can see that I did definitely have it thick and thin because there's little blurbs here and there. But this would be so warm. Like, just looking at how much air would be captured in that, it would be so, so warm. You would not have to wear a winter coat if you were wearing a sweater made out of this, which is apparently the whole purpose of having a sweater knit out of Lopi roving. So this was really fun. I hadn't tried it, so this was new for me. I would need some practice on spinning that Lopi yarn because you can see I got some really poofy bits where the tog has kind of gathered. But overall, I think it turned out decent. It is scratchy. I would not wear it next to the skin. But if you put like a nice cashmere collar on the top of a sweater to go around your neck and around the cuffs, it would be just divine and so warm. Thanks for joining me, guys. I hope you enjoyed this little experiment making Lopi yarn with our Icelandic fleece. If you like this, do the stuff down below because I do stuff like this all the time. Dr. Chaos out. Bye.